This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing. The 2K World Cup is back on air as we say hello and welcome to Sebring International Raceway, and welcome to this edition of the 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulations. This is round number 9 of the championship here at Sebring. Just 3 rounds to go after this one, and 3 of the last 4 rounds will be taking place in North America, in the USA. We've got Sebring today. In a couple of weeks' time, we'll be going to New Hampshire Motor Speedway, Watkins Glen International on August 18th. Wrap up our season just before football time on the 1st of September 2019. Will Vincent here along with Gary Weaver. And well, Gary, this Sebring International Raceway is long, and as a consequence of that, I expect to see a lot of drivers here not set a qualifying time because they only get 1 lap now under the 2K World Cup rules.
Yeah, it's going to be this track is really long, like you mentioned, about 3.7 miles actually. So it's definitely a little bit of a wonderment on which drivers really will choose to try and set that qualifying time. As you mentioned, with that 1 lap, they're going to have to make that 1 lap count, and some people on their out lap already messing up. Enzo Canta, for one.
Yeah, he is. I can just see him there. Well, he'll be bringing that car back on towards pit road for certain. There is Brian Duell in the number 88 car. So let's have a look at the championship standings, shall we, very quickly. It is Philippe Leber leading the way with 376 points. A big advantage right now over Ange Picorio, who's on 293. Simon Edwards in 3rd place. He's, of course, been doing really well on Monday Night Skippies. It's closer between Simon Edwards and the driver we're looking at, Brian Duell, who comes into this round 4th place in the championship. Greg Zietz rounds out your top 5. Then Tran, Edwin Valerino, Anthony Capp, Diego Francisco, and Neil Kemp as Brian Duell getting sideways there as he enters the hairpin. Well, in terms of the championship out front, it looks like that Philippe Leber has got himself an advantage, although I say that, unless I am blind and stupid, I don't see any Philippe Leber here today, so he'll be using a drop week from this round.
Yeah, I'm not seeing him. I'm also looking over just to double check. I'm not seeing Philippe Leber, so really interesting that he would actually choose this week as a drop week, but at the same time, it might be understandable as to why.
Yeah, and again, this is a track where it can be complicated for drivers, but the thing is, at the same time, overtaking is easy here, and drafting can be easy here. Of course, you've got a couple of very long straightaways. You've got it after the kind of S's down at turn 5 through turn 6 into the hairpin. Then, of course, you got it down the Ullman straightaway at the back end of this track between Le Mans Corner and Sunset Bend.
Looking at the track, man, that's definitely a very brutal portion of the racetrack just by even looking at it. So that's going to be something to figure out what drivers actually choose to make a little bit of a passing opportunity outside of coming from turn 5 down to that hairpin in turn 7, and then onwards towards the turn 10 of Cunningham Corner.
Yeah, and we're on board right now with Simon Edwards. He is about to start a fast lap here. We're right on board of him as he crosses the start-finish line, so we can put up that lap time for you now. In towards turn 1. Turn 1, you can gain or lose so much time here so quickly here, but then you've got to slow it down for this section. You go from concrete onto asphalt at the same time as well.
That transition of concrete and asphalt is a little bit scary in a sense because you really don't know what the grip is going to be like. You're pretty much sideways for the most part. Tires are going to be very worn by the end of this, I do not doubt, because everyone is just working those tires and working that steering wheel left and right throughout this entire track.
Yeah, and we just see now on the exit of Big Ben towards a hairpin at turn number 7. Let's see if we can get a sector time up then. 43.434 for sector time there for Simon Edwards. Now it's that run through turn number 8, Fangio, and then the left-hander before you come down in towards turn number 10. That right-hander down at Cunningham Corner. 90-degree right-hander here. And then the next 2 corners at Collier are really complicated. Even in a Skip Barber, you've got to be careful when you put that throttle on and just the amount of steering input that you have.
Yeah, with everyone pretty much sideways almost all the time here at this track, it's going to be very, very tentative here, especially when running in the pack, not just alone. And just that exit right there, turn 13, Tower Corner, is that you're going to be drifting out. You don't really want to drift out too much into that grass, or else you're going to be either finding yourself around or just getting yourself dragged off the racetrack.
Yeah, as we just see Simon Edwards working himself now through the S's out of Bishop down into 15. Now turn number 16. The right-hander at Le Mans Corner. We're going to see a flurry of activity on the left-hand side of your screen in just a moment's time as drivers will exit Sunset Bend and will set their first lap time. In practice, we saw times of 2:24 at the top of the timing stands, but a lot of that would have been draft assisted. Let's look for maybe, 2:25, Edwin Valerino. I was going to say maybe some low 2:25s or high 2:24s. Sasha Gold goes fastest for the time being, 2:25.618. Simon Edwards towards the start-finish line, and it's a 2:25.256 for him.
All the way to the top of the board by about 4/10, so a great job. I see Aaron DeFrita in 3rd place. Brian Dole makes his way up to 4th place, so you're pretty much your top 6, all within the 2:25 range. 2 drivers in 2:26, and then anyone else further back is either 27 or lower, as it looks like Schultz and Tipton will take over positions 2 and 3 in qualifying.
Yes, a good run there by Justin Tipton, as we have Fisher going up to 2nd place. Will Fisher, 14 one-thousandths of a second behind Simon Edwards, so close, but Fisher will go provisionally to the outside of row number 2. Stephen Stiles, we just see there moving into 10th place. Enzo Cantor moves up to 3rd as well.
And a lot of drivers, I was going to say, not many drivers are really breaking past the 22.5 barrier, but, well, now it's only 2 drivers, Simon Edwards and Will Fisher, that have broken through, and very close as well in terms of lap times. Well, right when I say that, there's Greg Zeitz to 3rd place with 2:25.4, almost a 2:25.5. Watching Anthony Catt right now. He's about to wrap up his lap time in a few moments.
Yeah, there's Anthony Catt heading himself down the back straight away. We were looking at Johnny Gindy a moment ago. I've got a feeling that he will be starting this race from the rear of the field. His car is all over the place, and let's see who's trying an uncouth method of warming up those tyres, which I'm not entirely certain was going to work there. But Anthony Catt even 2:25.2 to beat, and wow, that's slow there for Anthony Catt. Only a 2:26.505.
A very slow lap time, but based on the near majority of the field, he is actually, if I can just double check, so only about a second or so off of the rest of the field. So actually that is pretty staggering, especially when it comes to this long track, being again only 3.5 miles almost, but over that actually, as Rob Adams was actually, he's completed his lap time. I saw him going to pit road. He was possibly taking another lap. Other than that, though, I'm seeing the 18 Johnny Gundy, actually, he may be able to wrap up his qualifying time here.
Yeah, he'll get in about 15 seconds remaining on the play clock as he'll come past the start-finish line. But actually a bit more than that, about 30 seconds, I'll be fair to Johnny Gindy. He was doing, as I say, some wacky approaches to trying to warm up those tyres by the looks of it. Don't know if it's going to work for him. First sector time, though, was fast, 43.452. That was comparable to Simon Edwards.
Possibly. We'll have to pretty much find out by the time he crossed the start-finish line. And seeing the 53 is actually on the racetrack. Vicario actually is about to wrap up his qualifying time before Gindy will, so we'll see where that 53 comes across as he comes off of turn number 17 down the straightaway, and across the line he goes.
Not bad.
And taking the ball over on this end, all the way up to third place, 225.411. Not bad, as you had mentioned.
Yep, so up to third place there for Andrew Picorio. Johnny Gindy, though, he will be the last person to cross the start-finish line in a moment's time. Sector 2, 54.033. Will Johnny Gindy spoil the party for Simon Edwards in qualifying? We've got an elongated qualifying here. 10 minutes for our drivers to go out, and it's very, very squirrely through Sunset Bend, taking the inside line, heading towards the start-finish line. And can Gindy go faster? He needs a 225.2 or better. He does, and he does it by 4 tenths per second. Incredible.
The only driver, the last second, with about 34 seconds remaining on the time. Almost at this point with this track, I'd say the actual definition of last second qualifying time. The only driver to break into the 224 range as well, as mentioned, 4 tenths faster, and that may put Simon Edwards at maybe an advantage. We'll have to find out how he will react, because I'm pretty sure Simon was definitely watching those qualifying times throughout this run.
Yeah, practice is now over. Qualifying is now over. It is almost time then to run you through your starting grid for this round of the 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulation. And at the front of your field here today, you are going to have the driver, Johnny Gindy, the only driver to get into the 224s. He does so, and he beats Simon Edwards by 4 tenths per second right at the very end. Will Fisher in the number 3 car will run off third. Andrew Picorio in 4th place. Greg Zietz in 5th place. Enzo Cantor 6th. Sebastian Schultz in 7th. Justin Tipton 8th. 9th place, Sasha Gall and Arian De Freitas rounds out your top 10. There's a remainder of the qualifying times up on your screen. Well, the key question now is going to be, can anyone stay with Johnny Gindy in the race?
That's a interesting question to answer as well. The thing is, well, for Simon Edwards, at this point, I think Simon would either be hoping to at least just maybe play it safe at this point, hope that he gets the advantage in the pit stops when those do come around.
Yep, and of course, it's always one pit stop to the end here. There's a look at your track conditions. It is 27 degrees Celsius in the air. That's 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It is 100 degrees Fahrenheit on track, 38 degrees Celsius. Almost no wind and low humidity here today. So that will be of use to those drivers. It will help the drafting opportunities quite a bit as we turn our attention to the front of your field. There is your top couple of rows as we look from high up above. We are waiting for Tran. In fact, I think we have now got everyone on track, almost ready to go here in the 2K World Cup, presented by DES Simulation. Lights on, lights out. We go green flag here at Sebring, and it's already that slotting into play. Will go Simon Edwards in towards turn number 1. He had to defend that second position off the line, but it is going to be Johnny Gindy who leads as the cars roll themselves now through turn number 1 for the first time in this race. 21 laps is what we're racing for here today. And let's see, can all these drivers survive it through? Oh, no, they can't. We got a big spin, and that is very lucky. That could have been far more dangerous than it was. We had one car go off, Gary.
And looking back, I believe, I'm actually not sure, I know one car went wide. That was Sebastian Schultz that did go off. It was actually Enzo Cantor that went sideways 90 degrees. Somehow everybody managed to miss him for the most part.
Yeah, let's get ourselves a quick second look at that, shall we, as we're on board with Enzo Cantor in the number 924. He gets tapped from behind by the looks of it, and Sebastian Schultz having to go off track. That could well have been a far bigger issue. The reason for that one being, Gary, that is by far the narrowest point on the racetrack.
And you can't really go double wide there and somehow make it stick. But if you do, well, props to you for somehow making that stick. But it's, like you mentioned, a narrow portion of that track. But looking at the lead right now, it's a 4-car train with Picario on the tail end. Greg Zietz just watching there if anything does happen. In fact, he'll tag onto the back of this.
Yeah, as we've got out front, Simon Edwards were on board of him as they make that run now down towards Le Mans corner. First of all, they just got to survive Bishop. It's pretty much flat out in any type of car similar to this. But Justin Tipton and Aaron de Freitas, good start here today actually by Aaron de Freitas. Rolled off in 10th place, but he's actually now already up to P7.
Already 3 positions up off the start, as well as the driver a little bit of a ways in front of him in that 17 Sasha Gorel. So right now, actually, I have on the right-hand side to the inside, Tipton going to try and get that position back for 7th place as they go down the back straightaway, and it may be 3 wide here as somebody's looking through in the middle. That is Brian Dewell as they head down into this right-hand corner.
Yeah, Brian Dewell and the number 88 car will have the inside line over Aaron de Freitas as they come in towards Sunset Bend. We call it the line of 1,000 corners, and you can see the inside line doesn't necessarily have the advantage. Aaron de Freitas, Brian Dewell, they will stay side by side as they head themselves out the final corner, and you can see there the drivers scattering across the racetrack as they head past the start-finish line. Worth noting, by the way, Simon Edwards has lost 2 places. He's now down into P4.
And wide off the racetrack, I believe that was Greg Zietz. Not exactly sure at the moment, but either way, though, for Simon Edwards, that was a very, very big disadvantage for him. He actually went wide. Yeah, tried to make a move down to the right-hand side, slid up and slowed up as well, and then got passed by Picario and Fisher.
Yeah, there's a replay. You can just see pushing wide as he tried to go down the inside for the race lead over Johnny Guindy. Pushed him up into the top end of the racetrack. Loses 2 positions as a consequence of that one. Simon Edwards then down into 4th place. And Johnny Guindy right now is under a lot of pressure from Will Fisher in the number 3 car. He's up 1 position so far here today is Will Fisher. And he's looking close to the rear of Johnny Guindy. Guindy seems to have had the qualifying pace, but he's under pressure in terms of race pace here because both Edwards and Fisher have tried to look down the inside of him already.
Yeah, I don't know if Guindy is, well, of course, more than likely saving as much as he can while still staying out in front, but at the same time, that pressure could definitely get to him, but hopefully that number 18 will not let that pressure get to him as much as Fisher, Edwards, or maybe even Picario may want that lead for the time being.
Live timing and scoring is available. Visit racespot.tv/time. Keep up to date with your favourite driver throughout the course of this race. Just to let you know, we did have Enzo Cantor come on and off of pit road. So drive-through penalty for him here today early on. That is not what he would have wanted to have had happen. We're on board with Aaron de Freitas again as what's going on?
Picario had just gotten loose onto the back straightaway, and that's going to give the door to Simon Edwards. He had gotten wide and somehow, some way, snapped loose and did just barely manage to save it. All 4 tires were off the racetrack.
Wow, okay, so that is Simon Edwards up into 3rd place there. Picario down into 4th place as they'll head themselves towards the start-finish line once again. Let's go on board with Will Fisher for a moment as he is about 2 tenths per second back from Johnny Guindy. Not going to be able to do anything just yet, but behind Aaron de Freitas, Justin Tipton, they are close together as they work themselves down towards turn number 1. Inside line taken there by Aaron de Freitas. That will move him up into P7.
Freitas on a little bit of a roll here, still trying to battle Justin Tipton, essentially, who's definitely not going to let that 7th place go. While he is still in the position that he started, which is P8, Tipton is looking to advance that ever so slightly more and more, so I would not be surprised if we see these two continue to battle it out, just like Turan Tran and Edwin Valerino are battling as Valerino goes off the racetrack, saves it a little bit squirrely there, getting back onto the racetrack, but still a position nonetheless for that number 11.
Yeah, fastest lap so far, that's been set by Will Fisher, 2:25.041. Edwin Valerino close in, looking down to the inside over. He's actually got himself past Turan Turan. It's actually a little bit further back. It's Steven Stoyles who was close with Turan Turan there. And actually Steven Stoyles has got a battle with Sebastian Schultz, who of course had that incident on lap number 1 where he had to go onto the grass down in the S's. But after that, he's on a bit of a recovery drive right now, running in 14th.
That recovery drive is definitely going to be a little bit useful for Schultz, while again, like you mentioned, that incident on the pretty much the first lap, he's definitely starting to recover, and hopefully those pit stops can help him recover just that little bit more.
So there we are. We've been looking on board with him for a moment, but let's go back a little bit further up in your field. Let's turn our attention back to Will Fisher, because he is 3 tenths per second back right now from Johnny Gindi. And he did set the fastest lap of the race on lap number 2, but in the draft train, you always expect a 2nd or 3rd place driver to set the fastest lap, as Rob Adams also just moved himself past Chris Malcolm. Malcolm's actually had a miserable couple of corners. He's lost 2 positions in that Universidad Isabella 1 positive sim racing car, now down to P number 19 on track. And Iron Freighter, Justin Tipton once again going at it for P number 8, and behind Edwin Valerino, Carl Drunke, P10, P11.
Looks like Valerino will get that position for the time being. In fact, he'll advance, one more position up to into the top 10, actually. And now it's going to be DeFrita and Tipton maybe battling down the front straightaway. I'm waiting. Yep, down to the right-hand side, left-hand side, actually, I should say, goes DeFrita. And just like that, back up to 7th place goes the 86.
Yep, so there is the... Oh, what's going on?
Yeah, he actually went a little bit too far to the inside, and he'll lose that position again. In fact, another one as DeFrita went way wide, knocking all the cones out of the way. So he went down to the left-hand side and then just slowly started to lose grip and then wash up out of the racetrack into the grass. And just like that, DeFrita is now down to 9th place after Noel had also capitalized on that.
Yeah, and he did catch a load of cones there. Here's a replay of the Freighter in that number 6 Evolution Racing Team car into turn 1. It just kind of got a little bit loose in the center of the corner. Snap oversteer for him then, and he tried to correct it. As a consequence of that, he lost himself a couple of places, lost a bit more times. He had to get rid of that cone stuck underneath that car, but he is back and running again. Ahead, Greg Zietz and Andrew Pecorio for P number 4 on track. It is still a 5-car battle out front here, Gary. You were right when you said Pecorio and Zietz are just going to stay there and hang out for a little bit, because Greg Zietz is about 4 tenths per second back, but he's not looking at the moment to really try and force the issue with any of the guys further ahead.
And definitely don't want to push the issue, especially so early into this race. Again, 21 laps, and we're only at the moment working lap 4 at those 21. So it's definitely a good strategy to just let everybody else race it out in front of you and just tag on to the back and hope for the best.
As the top 4, top 5 head themselves then on the exit of Le Mans corner, down the very long back straightaway, the Ulmann straightaway, which is the longest straightaway which we actually have on track there. You can see Greg Zietz putting out the draft as they head towards Sunset Bend, coming up to the 4 cone, 3, 2, 1. They're all going to dance in behind, though. Edwin Valerino, Carl Drunke continue to battle it out. This is for P number 10 on track, and Edwin Valerino there is going to try and do the up and under over Carl Drunke. Drunke goes very wide.
That was deadly. I don't think there's really any space between himself and that wall at the end, at least the left rear tire, but Drunke will fall back to P14 at the line, and it looks like the 25 Anthony Cat will actually let him into line, so definitely not pushing the issue is that 25, but Drunke definitely saved himself from something that could have been much, much worse.
Yeah, and you could just see we were looking at the camera into the corner. He actually pushed so far wide. He's got to send it on the side of his car. He did try sending it, but pushed so wide, and actually could have almost hit the tire barrier. He was inches away though. We can see on the onboard, because I was saying that car started bumping up and down. The concrete isn't flat if you go that far wide in the outside of the corner.
That's really, really difficult. So sending it, he almost literally did, but thankfully he didn't send it into the tire barriers there for that left rear. So again, saved himself. And that concrete, again, is something that could play a factor into pretty much anybody of these other drivers' races.
Rob Adams has had an issue. This is down, I believe, at the hairpin. Replay coming up for you now. Rob Adams falling down to 22nd place as a consequence. He had a car down on his inside. That was the number 81 car. And I think a lot of drivers just came together there into the hairpin. Rob Adams, as a consequence of that one, now down to P number 22. We get one more look from up above into the corner. Oh, yeah, he just gets rear-ended.
Yeah, possibly a little bit of too much speed and not exactly misestimation, trying to find the correct word for it, but misjudgment is the word that I was looking for. So a little bit maybe too much on trying to get catch up or get positions, unfortunately. So hopefully everything is fine, though, between those two vehicles, aside from just a little bit of fender damage.
I was saying earlier on how Greg Zietz was just kind of staying there in the mix. He has set the fastest lap of the day with a 2:24.160, and actually that also does show you a little bit the difference between qualifying pace and race pace. The fact that we are already about 7 tenths of a second faster than what these drivers are able to do in qualifying for your fastest lap of the day. We've got a car on towards pit road early, and Justin Tipton's on towards the lane early. So lap number 6, Tipton, Valerino, Cat all on pit road.
Lap 6, that's actually quite interesting. I'm trying to think. So, yeah, about 4 laps or so just before, 5 or so laps actually just before halfway. Usually I'd be thinking that would be about halfway or a little bit afterwards. So, a little bit of interesting strategy that it's not 1 car, but 3 that are all using that same strategy.
Maybe it might be a 2-stop to the end situation. We'll probably find out more likely next time around, because if you want a 2-stop strategy, you can do it lap number 7, lap number 14, and then just have a little bit more fuel towards the end. And actually looking at the amount of fuel they put in, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a 2-stop race here today, which is added a little bit of interest to the 2K World Cup, I'm going to have to say, because traditionally it was always 1 pit stop, but with all the changes that's been made to this car over the last couple of months, Gary, it looks as though the 2K, now we quite often see 2 pit stops to the end.
It's quite interesting. That would be instead of 1 pit stop, it would be 2. So that could also play a little bit of a difference changer, especially for some of these drivers. So it's definitely going to spread the field out a lot more than we've really anticipated, that we've seen actually with 1 pit stop. So at the end, we'll just have to figure out, again, as you mentioned, see if anyone else comes around this time by. So I'm definitely looking forward to see what happens here, if it will be 2 pit stops, and what these drivers choose to do.
It's worth noting as well that getting on towards pit road here isn't that complicated unless you were in a huge pack of cars when you got to angle down to the inside and take a tighter line down into Sunset Bend. We're on board with your race leader, Johnny Gindy, in the number 18 car, heading himself down the Ullman straightaway. Let's see whether he will come on towards pit road this time by. Simon Edwards, by the way, went purple last time by, 2:24.011. Johnny Gindy is going to take that wide line, actually, so he's not going to come on towards pit road. None of your top 5, top 6 drivers are going to come on towards pit road. There is Arian De Freitas, Brian Duell, Tran, Steven Stiles. Yeah, we do get Cole Dronke on pit road, though.
And I believe possibly the only driver, I'm still looking through at any other drivers. No, I thought the 23 was going to go in, but I think it will just be the number 10 all on his lonesome.
Yep. So Carl Dronke then, end of lap number 6 for him, on to lap number 7. As let's have a look, Carl Dronke then is going to get himself fuel. Probably no tyres, 12.7 seconds. He is out and away. So that is him done. Greg Zietz has moved himself up into 4th place. Andrew Pecoy is falling down into 5th position for the time being. Steven Stiles trying to round. They are close as they head themselves into the hairpin. We're having a look there at Steven Stiles in the 215 car. It's a 2-1 car just ahead of Tran, getting a little bit loose there through the hairpin.
And even just a little bit of loose is something that's very nerve-wracking, essentially, especially here at this track where you're loose all the time. So it's in some cases, actually, some drivers could actually get used to that. But at the same time, if you're a little bit loose in a place where you don't really want to be, then you might want to be just a little bit worried, or maybe start to play a little bit of a safer approach. What? As, oh man, just barely saving it was Will Fisher. He went wide on the exit as well, so just barely managed to save it. Snapped all the way to the right-hand side, and somehow, some way, still keeps it in second.
Yeah, but there is Will Fisher going wide then on to the gravel. I was going to say, it's the second race I've commentated this weekend where we're talking about cars being loose in the 24 hours of Spa, which of course concluded only about 6 hours ago. We had situations with, at one point, 10 teams in 6 hours having big moments down at Blanchimont in the Audis, as Simon Edwards is looking to the inside of Will Fisher as they head themselves in towards Sunset Bend right now. So that is Simon Edwards going upper positions. Will Fisher has gone wide, and we're getting a lot of drivers then heading themselves past the start-finish line. Now, Will Fisher to the back of the pack.
I was thinking he was going to head to pit road, actually, but he didn't make that right-hand turn, so I'm wondering if he... Well, there goes the 17th, actually. Sasha Gorel, Sebastian Schultz also goes to pit road from what I'm seeing over here on timing, but Mick Watson as well. I was thinking the 3 was going to head to pit road, but he may just be playing a safer approach, as Kemp and McCormick also go to pit road.
A lot of drivers on pit road this time by Sasha Gorel, Sebastian Schultz, Mick Watson, Neil Kemp, Mick McCormick, Rod Adams are all on the lane, plus a few more towards the rear of your field as well. 24 car field here today in the 2K World Cup, presented by DES Simulations. There is Sasha Gold coming back onto track, and also with a smaller field than what we're kind of used to in the 2K World Cup here, Gary. What it does also mean is that you will have less opportunities to fall into a pack of drivers. So pitting early can be a bit more advantageous here compared to at some other tracks.
Pitting early is something that definitely can play into an advantage, but at the same time, well, we haven't seen anybody else. We've only seen almost, well, quite literally almost half the entire field. We still have actually another 12 drivers to pit, so we have seen half the field actually pit so far. Now I just have to wonder when the other half will decide to pit, as looks like Tipton will get by Morgan, as I believe something is happening with Morgan. No, he's just letting those 2 drivers by, as he had actually went wide.
Yep, so let's get ourselves a quick second look at that one, shall we? John Morgan in towards the hairpin. You can see that is one of the TT Racing cars, number 5 car, Justin Tipton going past. Then John Morgan just brakes a little bit later, rolls out the throttle, allows Enzo Cantor to go by. Actually, I would say one thing after watching a lot of endurance racing, that's almost a perfect way of allowing drivers to go past you there, Gary.
Yeah, taking the wide entry instead of just going either directly off the track or moving out of the way and slowing down is definitely a good idea. But right now, side by side, Greg Zietz and Simon Edwards down the long back straightaway. Zietz will clear into Sunset Corner and then back into the other right-hand corner once again. And Simon Edwards will fall back to at least 3rd place. And well, it's going to be everybody into pit road this time by, oh my goodness.
That was close. That was very close there between Greg Zietz and Simon Edwards as they headed on towards pit road, enough to just make our timing and scoring graphic go a little bit wrong for a second. But here's Johnny Gindy then, front end of your field. Let's see what happens as they are all going to take fuel here. No tyres, of course, really in the 2K World Cup. These tyres are hard enough. They will happily last for as long as you really need them to. Johnny Gindy out and away, 12.1 seconds. Everyone else is taking a lot more fuel here. 15.7 seconds for Greg Zietz, 15.2 for Will Fisher, 16.1 for Andrew Picorio. Speeding penalty for Simon Edwards.
Oh, man, I was wondering why he was still sitting in his pit stall. That was definitely a reason why.
Yeah, it's a huge loss there for Simon Edwards. He's actually come out all the way down in P number 14, 27 second pit stop for him. That's going to be miserable. He's actually also come out at the rear of a pack of about 8 drivers.
Yeah, Simon Edwards from the entry, as if the entry wasn't enough, and a little bit of a heart attack for me. That was Man, Simon Edwards, unfortunately, is definitely going to have to figure out what he's going to have to do to recover from that. He's going to have to hope that he can get more positions and maybe stay a little bit longer. He might have taken advantage of that, but at the same time, I'm not exactly sure if that would be the case or not.
On board Carl Drunke as they work themselves. Actually, we're going to go a little bit further ahead because Andrew Pecoria, Will Fisher, scrapping out for third place on track right now. And Andrew Pecoria is up into third place. It's Will Fisher now in P number 4 as they work themselves through these double sequence of left-handers. And they're going to slow it down in a moment as they'll head themselves. That is on the exit of Tower Corner. Now it's that long run down through the very fast sweeping left-handers. It's worth noting that it's still a 5-car battle out front. It's just spread out a little bit, mainly because Johnny Gindy, a 12.1 second pit stop for him.
And Gindy with the, actually, if I take a look at the, well, actually, no, shortest pit stop time was 11.6 seconds, 0.7 seconds, 12 seconds on 12.3. So Gindy's pit stop was the 4th fastest overall of all the drivers that have pitted so far. And I'm thinking that just judging by the pit stop time, Greg Zietz and multiple other drivers that were in their pit stalls had taken just a little bit more fuel than Gindy.
Yeah, and that will come back into play in the second round of pit stops because Gindy will have to spend a little bit more time on pit road. I think really what he wanted to do was just get away, Gary, because I think he was wondering that everyone behind him was just keeping that toe with him, but weren't actually really able to put a pass on. So really, Gindy doing the short pit stop now will give him the opportunity to just stretch his legs, and I want to keep an eye out on the lap gaps and next time they come past the start-finish line because gap is currently 5.4 between Gindy and Zietz.
Well, you did mention that he wanted to get away, and it worked because that pit stop time, I'm seeing now 5.5, just nearing 5.6. His best lap was the fastest lap, actually, I believe, so far, at 223.972. So that definitely may have worked out in his favor.
It has, yeah. Our timing and scoring shows it thousandths of a second slower, 223.973, but you know that swings and roundabouts really when you're leading the race by 5.6 seconds. Will Fisher in 4th place, Andrew Pecoria just ahead of him. They've got to be patient now at this stage of the race. They can't get too aggressive with each other as Carl Drunke and Simon Edwards are going at it as well, and Simon Edwards is through up into 13th.
Simon Edwards slowly making his way back up through the field as Schultz, I see, has passed Dronke over on the timing. Has not seen the physical pass as of now, but for Simon Edwards, he's definitely slowly starting to recover. He came out, I believe, about 15th or so is where he finally had shuffled himself out. And right now he's got sights set on Steven Stoyles in the 215.
Carl Drunke lost it under braking in that number 10 car. That's the reason why he's lost positions, because he completely locked the tyres in that number 10 car. Cost him three positions, because he lost one to Sebastian Schultz as well in the number 123 car. You can just see him there on the left-hand side of your screen getting a pass. So not a good day for Carl Drunke. He's had a couple of moments so far in this race.
Carl Drunke has, I believe, been pretty much all over the place, and well, he's going to be up one more place if he can get by Schultz here into Sunset Corner. He's losing a little bit more momentum because Schultz does have the slipstream, and there it shows as Drunke will fall back in line right behind that 123 machine.
Yep, Aaron De Freitas that will go on board with him. Let's actually give you a little bit of RaceSpot TV fan immersion, shall we, on this Sunday night. We'll go on board with some drivers in this battle for P number 8 through P number 11. Lots of battling going on right now. Tran's gotten involved in that one as well in the number 21 car. He runs in 11th place on track, but that was all going on down at the hairpin. Brian Duell in 7th place, Edwin Valerino in 8th, Anthony Katz in 9th, Aaron DeFreitas in 10th, and Tran in 11th place. It's like playing Snake all of a sudden here.
Yeah, this was really fun to watch, but at the same time, it was also really nerve-wracking because I kept thinking that some of these drivers were actually... Picario actually, I believe, may have spun out or something. He did just lose 2 positions, and in fact, that's because of a slipstream pass on the back straightaway by Will Fisher and Justin Tipton. So Andrew Picario, luckily, has not run into any actual trouble with his vehicle. Yeah,
I was worried that he might have got a slowdown penalties. By the way, Johnny Guindy goes purple. He's all by himself, but he did a 2:23.959 that last time around. This is the reason why he might have wanted to pit early. As they can see, Andrew Picario losing 2 places down on the inside in towards Sunset Bend. As we go back to live pictures, Tran, look at that. They were going 2 wide, 2 deep in towards 1.
Oh, this is going to end only... Oh, this is going to be interesting, I will say that. But somehow, they still managed to sort it out. Oh, maybe not. Valerino definitely trying to stick with that 10th place position, but I believe he actually will be able to keep it. Tran still just hanging on to the very back of the field.
And all this has done is it's brought Simon Edwards back into play. This is perfect for Simon Edwards right now because he, of course, had that speeding penalty on his first pit stop here, but he's been able to gain quite a bit of time now, and he is up into 12th place, but he's got P11, P10, P9, P8 all ahead of him on track, and he can see them all.
That's actually while it may seem to be a bad thing, that could actually play out into an advantage for Simon Edwards as Duell gets passed by DeFreitas, as looks like Duell will try to cross him over, but that will not work just on the exiting corner. So, wait a minute, Anthony Cat could actually be joining in on this, but maybe not. Just looking into a different line makes you think something interesting is going to happen, and it nearly is. Simon Edwards does have the 2:15 behind him, but going back to the original point of Simon Edwards, he did this could help him out. While it may be a little bit frustrating to see everybody all in front of him, it's good that they're not all spread out around the racetrack in front of him between the leader and where he is right now. So he's got a good group of cars to pass.
I said I wanted to keep an eye out on the gap between P number 1 and P number 2, and well, this says it all for itself. Look at that. 7 tenths of a second lost there by Greg Seats on lap number 10. 8 tenths of a second lost on lap number 11, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Johnny Guindy going purple here once again as he comes past the start-finish line. He doesn't actually. That last lap by him was only a 2:24.005. Still, though, faster than anyone else in the field by quite some margin right now.
That's very, very advantageous for that number 18 machine. So that slow pit stop, essentially, well, that quick pit stop in this case now, could play out to be an advantage. We're actually coming up on what could be a second time for pit stops, but at the same time, not everyone has reached 7 laps, as all other drivers are on a different strategy. So we'll see how that goes, as I'm seeing Tran was looking to the left-hand side of Valerino's machine for the top 10, but I think that 21 decided to say, oh, you know what, I might not take the chance as of now. So a lot of drivers here in this 7th to 13th pack are just looking down to the whatever respective side they can really get to, but not really making any moves as of yet as the laps close in.
And of course, it's everyone's least favorite word, but people might just be saving a little bit of fuel as well in the mix, especially if they're close on numbers between whether or not they need to save fuel at the end. For some of these drivers that took a shorter pit stop, this could be a pure advantageous moment to just squeeze a little bit more out of the tank on this run. Again, though, we see Brian Duell getting close to the rear of Aaron DeFreitas. We see Anthony Cat getting close to the rear of Brian Duell. This is mighty close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars now in that pack, and it always scares me how they take very different lines through Collier, because it looks like they're going to go 3 wide. They just have each got different lines and different approaches to that corner.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hard tech worthy in a sense, so it's just I was trying to figure out what exactly they can do, what they can't do, just figuring out what line does or does not work. At this point, they definitely know which would or would not work, so they're just trying to figure out, okay, well, when can I get the momentum, and where can I execute that momentum perfectly, as that might be displayed almost by the 21 on the exit into the back straightaway. That was almost displayed. He's directly behind Ballerino. He'll look to the right-hand side, as it looks like Picario is getting past. Johnny Gundy actually is in pit road right now.
Yep, so Gundy making his second pit stop of the day. We're on board the Tran as he works in towards Sunset Bend. This is where things can get really complicated, by the way, because some drivers he short-filled last time by will be coming on towards pit road. I can see Simon Edwards coming on towards pit road, as well as a couple of others, as Johnny Gundy is going to then do his second pit stop of the day. There we can see him heading in towards his pit stall now. And let's have a look at the pit time. We expect this one to be a little bit longer. Indeed it is. 15.3 seconds out and away there for Johnny Gundy. We've also got Simon Edwards on pit road. Will Fisher, Andrew McCoy, Sebastian Schultz, Justin Tipton, all on the lane.
Looking through as well as there's Brian Dole, Edwin Valerino, and Anthony Katz. So pretty much the back half, or just about the entire 7th to 13th place, actually, by the looks of some of these names that have dropped out into pit road. A lot of drivers on almost completely different strategies.
Yeah, and a lot of drivers all fighting for the same piece of real estate coming out of pit road as well. Simon Edwards, 16.6 second pit stop for him. Of course, he had a speeding penalty last time around, but this time by, he's bet on towards pit road, doesn't have any issues. It means Greg Zietz leads the way in this motor race right now by 3.4 seconds over Sasha Gore, but we do need to see both of them on towards pit road again. Greg Zietz, the only thing he could be hoping for right now, because he put more fuel in, he can get enough laps led to get some bonus points here, Gary, because he did take a lot more fuel that first time around compared to Johnny Gundy, but he needs to lead 3 laps in order to get bonus points.
As 3 laps can be crucial for sure, because especially during a time where you're expecting drivers to head to pit road at this time, around here, that may just play into a little bit of pressure. It's more, do I stay out and lead some laps, or do I just forego that and not risk the running out of fuel?
Yeah, as Rob Adams, Simon Edwards going side by side as they head themselves through the back end of this racetrack, and actually Simon Edwards has got Sebastian Schultz just ahead of them as they exit Tower Corner and work themselves now down towards the fast sweeping left-handers before the S's in towards Le Mans. Greg Zietz stays out to do another lap, and we see Sasha Gore on pit road.
Now, question if anyone else joining, I don't believe so. De Frita stays out. Tran does go down the pit road. However, Steven Stoyles does opt to stay out. Carl Jonke into pit road as well. Same with Mick Watson, Neil Kemp as well. I'm still looking at the other corners, as it looks like Chris Malcolm may come into pit road. He will.
Yep, there you can see Sasha Gore. We turn our attention round to the rear. He's out of the way 13.4 seconds then, as Tran completing service, as well as we'll get that one 13.6 seconds for Tran coming back out onto track. Now Simon Edwards is going to be the big benchmark here in all of this. I'm just trying to see where Simon Edwards is, as he's going to be close to the rear of Anthony Cat and Tran, but isn't going to be able to get past them in towards turn number 1, and part of this is because Tran and Anthony Cat both were able to do shorter pit stops this second time around.
Yeah, those short pit stops versus long pit stops can definitely play into effect, especially with Simon Edwards with his speeding penalty from about 26 or so seconds earlier on. That definitely did play into a massive disadvantage, and it shows here on the racetrack. While it may not seem like much on pit road, this is an example of messing up or speeding on pit road.
Yep, Justin Tipton, we go on board of him right now. He runs in 8th place on track. He's a third of a second back from Sasha Gore in the number 17 car. So the TT racing car of Justin Tipton's got a bit of work to do if he wants to try and get towards the top 5 here. Greg Zietz, Arian De Freitas, Steven Stoyles are the drivers who have yet to pit this second time around. Enzo Cantor also needs to pit again, as does Rowan Griffin, who currently runs in 20th place on track. But it's a three-horse battle again. P6, 7, 8. It's Andrew Picourier, Sasha Gall, and Justin Tipton. And well, 2 rounds of pit stops hasn't separated them out really. And the reason for that, Gary, is because they pretty much did identical pit stop times both the first and second time around.
I'm looking through at the moment through their pit stops, as everyone has pretty much been shuffled compared to when they had first pit. So yeah, they're all virtually identical. 12.2 seconds for Beccario, 13.6 as Aaron DeFrita goes down the pit road, 13.6 seconds for the 17, and 15.4 seconds. But it looks like that's not going to be the case for Sasha Grohl, because with that slipstream down the back straightaway, goes right by, slips maybe wide. No, I thought that was going to happen, but great car control from that 17, as it looks like DeFrita may be the only one heading into pit road this time around.
Yep, there's a replay. We go on board with Sasha Grohl as he's able to just get out of the slipstream. Reminds me almost of some of the movies that we saw late 1990s, Daytona, Tom Cruise, and the whole ability to engage an extra gear for slipstreaming parts. Of course, you don't get that in the 2K World Cup and on these Skip Barber cars. They've got fixed gear sets. But Sasha Gall up to P number 5 in his number 17 car, as Arian DeFreitas, after his pit stop, comes out in 9th.
Dropping about, I believe, about 2 positions. Well, not 2 positions, sorry. Way off on that one, actually dropping from 3rd place, 6 positions, actually, as Chris Malcolm in the very back of the field goes into pit road for his pit stop. Same with Rowan Griffin, also 19th and 20th at the moment, respectively. So now the gap between, for the lead, actually, is 12 seconds, about 12.1 seconds between Zietz and Stoyles, as Stoyles is pretty much on a tear, 13 positions up, but I don't believe he or Zietz, no, they have not pitted as of yet.
No, they haven't. And of course, Greg Zietz right now is going to be able to potentially get himself some bonus points for leading laps here. And I think that's going to be really important for him in terms of this race there. We can see him. By the way, Johnny Gindi went purple again last time around. 223.949. Compare that to Greg Zietz. It was a 224.616, a light years difference between the two of them. We're on board though with Greg Zietz right now as he enters Sunset Bend and will exit Sunset Bend, and will almost certainly move that car to the right hand side of the track. Indeed he does, and he'll slow it down to pit road speed here at 45 miles an hour.
That looks like the 215 that comes off the corner will decide to stay out. Nope, just narrowly missing the cone, nearly getting the inside wall, and very quickly on pit entry. Not sure if that was going to be counted as a speeding penalty or not. Entered at about 63 miles an hour, but very quickly slow it down to 45, so we'll see if a penalty does come for the 215.
Yeah, here's a replay of Stephen Stoyles as he comes in, and yeah, it's just a messy pit entry for him there. He tried to take a lot away, as will actually he doesn't get a speeding penalty though. 11.1 out and away for him. Falls down to rear end of your top 10. I think he'll come out just about behind Arian DeFreitas. He's actually picking up speed right now. Arian DeFreitas is going to get ahead of Stefan Stoyles, as will Brian Duell. Stoyles will come out into P number 9. Greg Zietz, after his pit stop, falls back down into 2nd place, but he's some 6.3 seconds behind your race leader, Johnny Gindi. He's just driving away. Last time by, 223.938, going purple again.
And definitely not a definitely not shying away from that purple color is Johnny Gindi, showing how much that qualifying result actually he qualified in 5th place. So I was thinking, wait, no, that was actually I was correct. I was looking at the incorrect driver there. Apologies, but yeah, showing how much that not only he's actually just almost an entire second faster. His qualifying time again, actually I believe he was a second faster. Yeah, almost. 224.834 was his qualifying time. That last time around, 223.938. So he's very, very close to closing in on just 1 second faster. So he definitely, for sure, has that race pace.
Yeah, I haven't seen a driver as dominant in a 2K World Cup event in quite some time. Johnny Guindy is consistently lap after lap faster. He's been absolutely dominant since qualifying. He's running the curbs aggressively into Le Mans there through turn 15 and 16. Down the Ullman he comes once again. I'm wondering if he's going to try and actually get a second faster than his pole position time, because he really is pushing it right now in that number 18 Hispo America car, as in towards Sunset Bend once again. You can just see how close he's getting as well to the inside retaining wall. So Johnny Guindy, even though he's got a almost 7-second advantage, is absolutely not letting up here, and this time by faster again. 223.883. That is almost now a second faster than his qualifying.
Just exactly well, actually not even exactly 0.05 seconds off roughly, however. 0.051 seconds off of his qualifying time. 0.049. Either way, still around there. Definitely pushing that car for sure, though. As he was very sideways, I think on a 45-degree angle there for a moment.
Yeah, impressive by him. Tran, Arjen de Freitas, and Stephen Stiles are still going at it for 8th, 9th, and 10th place right now. We're right on board with Tran, of course. Next time we're in the 2K World Cup, when we go to New Hampshire Motor Speedway, it's always a time when we will talk about a driver like Tran. He's always been so good on the ovals. Every time we've seen him, we see him really good on the rovals. Running inside the top 10 right now on the outside of the freighter into the hairpin.
Trying to do pretty much whatever possible to get any positions at the, not exactly the last second, but definitely in these closing laps. I believe it will be 3 to go at the start-finish line when we hit lap 19. So definitely pretty much go time for that number 21 machine at this point. Brian Doyle, though, just sitting up ahead, letting this happen behind him as Goral and it looks to be Tipton battling side by side for position number 5 as they go down into the final closing corners, very close to each other, almost about 2 feet separating them.
Yeah, as we're on board with Sasha Goral again on that number 17 car, able to get the advantage over Justin Tipton. Behind, by the way, there was a bit of movement going on in your Freighter Tran battle as well. Sasha Goral, as he heads himself now towards Le Mans once again, running in 5th position. Justin Tipton is in 6th. In fact, let's run you through your top 8 as it stands here in the 2K World Cup. Just over 3 laps remaining in this race, and it's Johnny Guindy who leads by 7.4 seconds over Greg Zietz. Will Fisher runs in 3rd place. Andrew Picorio in 4th. Sasha Goral in 5th. Justin Tipton right behind in 6th. And then you've got yourself Brian Doyle in 7th place. Tran in 8th. It's all changing in real time here, Gary.
Yeah, everyone's decided to just go for it at this point because I'm seeing Tipton move to the inside. I did see that position change on timing for Tran and de Freitas as I'm watching the other battle, as it looks like, okay, so de Freitas and Tran have been single filed out for the time being, but this 3-car battle for 4th place rather, is definitely starting to heat up for the time being.
At the front of that battle, it is Sasha Goral. We're on board with him again from the rear, in towards the slowest part of this racetrack. Turns 3, 4, and 5 right now, as Sasha Goral is still there in the mix. And behind, you've also got a couple of little other battles. We've kind of not talked about this one much, but Anthony Capp, Edwin Valerino, and Simon Edwards, P number 11, 12, and 13. Now, Edwards had a slow pit stop because he had to take the heavier pit stop that second time around, so wasn't really able to capitalize on all the work he'd done after that first pit stop. But now sluggish down in 13th place. Actually, they go ahead, Valerino and Cap for P number 11, as you've also got Brian Doyle and Tran for P7.
And apparently looks to be just a couple of quick passes for both of those battles for the time being, but I think Anthony Cat will let that settle for the time being, as we are just over 2 laps to go here into these final few moments. I'm wondering if any of these drivers in any of these battles will really decide to, well, for lack of a better term, send it essentially for another position. See what they can do if they can advance that position, especially with Tipton just on the outside of the top 5.
Yeah, indeed, as there is Justin Tipton. He is about 3 tenths per second behind Andrew McCrory. Sasha Gore runs in 4th place right now. Justin Tipton, though, looking maybe you'll have to rely a little bit on the draft from Andrew McCrory here as well. Maybe he needs to have Andrew McCrory force an issue into Sunset Bend as the gaps come down. Actually, a very good run now by Justin Tipton, who looks down to the inside of 1. He's going to think about going down to the inside of 2 in towards Sunset Bend. What a draft there for Justin Tipton in that number 5 car.
Absolutely amazing. Oh, maybe not. Okay, I thought he just snapped loose a little bit for a moment, but definitely an amazing job as it's now 2 laps to go. Sasha Gorel is not going to let that happen, though. Down to the right-hand side, onto the front straightaway, a lower entry line. Now goes Sasha Gorel to the top side. Tipton, though, is going to try and at least stay on the left-hand side on the outside lane, but that will not work because Gorel just went flying by him back into 4th place.
Yeah, and the outside line working well. Behind, Tran, Brian Dewell, Aaron De Freitas, Steven Stoyles still close together. At the rear of that train is Steven Stoyles in the number 215 car, but Tran has worked himself up now to the front of that battle.
Tran also not letting pretty much anything else go. He's just over in 7th place, actually, so he's still trying to stay ahead of Dewell and De Frita for the time being. Just defending at this point is the only thing that should be on his mind, but there's also going to be Steven Stoyles in the 215 that may be making a move on De Frita, so now it's a 4-car battle for 7th place at this point.
Lap and a half to go here at Sebring in the 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulations, and even though Johnny Gindy is just driving away out front, we've got plenty of action to go in packs number 2 and 3. P4 through P7. So P4 through P6 is a 3-horse battle. Sasha Gold, Justin Tipton, Andrew Picorio. Then behind, you got yourself Tran. Actually, Brian Dewell was almost on his outside there into Tower Corner.
Brian Dewell just looking for any position possible, any line actually that could work at this case. He definitely wants to get back up to top 7, as it's going to be side by side for 4th place again between Tipton and Gorel. This time it's Tipton making the pass. Gorel looks to the right hand side but just follows through for the time being.
But they've now got the back straightaway to go once again. Sasha Gorel gets a good run actually, as the 3 drivers are separated by 4 car lengths. Here is Sasha Gorel, and it's going to be Tipton making him go round the long way. But also, Andrew Picorio is there or thereabouts. Outside line being taken then by Sasha Goyle into... Oh, that got close into Sunset Bend.
Snapping to the left-hand side was Sasha Gorel, and it's going to be very close, just missing the grass as it's 1 lap to go, and Johnny Gundy has about a 10-second gap, but this is definitely going to be an interesting battle shaping up for 4th place. Yeah,
white flag out, 1 more lap to go, and Johnny Gindy again going faster. A 2:23.603. So we've got synchronized drifting going on there for P4 and P5.
And these two are going to continue to battle it out for the time being in these final corners. I am still keeping an eye on this, as they are just both putting it all on the line. Andrew Picario just watching this happen in front of him. I don't know if he'll really try and make a move, but Tipton got on the curb and now lose him some momentum. There goes Picario to the left-hand side. Yeah, Sasha Gore has lead momentum as they head themselves towards the hairpin through Big Bend they come, but on the outside line, here comes Andrew Picorio, and is he able to make the move? The answer to that question is, well, he's going to try and use the outside line, but not quite close enough to stay on the outside as they work into Fangio. Yeah, it's going to be no space between between Tipton and Girl for Picario to get into line, as he'll still continue to stay on the left-hand side and try and get past Sasha Gorel, or at least in front of Tipton as they go into another right-hand turn.
Yeah, but the TT Racing car there of Justin Tipton is saying, wait a minute, I'm still in this battle as well.
Oh, no.
And that is...
Just went wide.
Yeah, that's Tipton. He's just gone wide. And actually, he's lucky that the other people behind are battling. You've got Anthony Catt, Edwin Valerino separated by nothing right now as they're heading towards Tower.
Multiple battles all at the same time throughout all of this. I'm seeing where the 18 is actually halfway down the back straightaway.
Yeah, Simon Edwards, by the way, just did a power move around the outside at Tower. We're going to come back to that one in a moment's time because here is Johnny Guindy going to head himself then into the final corner for the final time. Johnny Guindy, a dominant drive here in the 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulation. He is your winner here today by over 10 seconds over Greg Seat. They're still going to be battling behind those, so let's not give up on that one just yet. Sasha Goyle, Andrew Mercurio, and going wide there is Mercurio in the final corner.
Multiple drivers passing all over the racetrack, and it will be Mercurio. And actually, no, Tipton out front. Mercurio following, I think, Sasha Goyle may be out of gas. I'm not sure, but everybody following and changing positions. Somebody's wide onto the pit entry. That's Turan Tran. Falls back to 13th. Everybody swap positions that are possibly on the back straightaway into those final corners. It was just everybody all over the place. As soon as I saw these top four heading into the final corners, I did see multiple positions change on the timing.
Yeah, Tran got tagged on the rear as he entered the final corner. That cost him a bit of positions. That's likely going to be reviewed after this race. I want to see if I can find the move for Simon Edwards, because this one, we need to go back probably about another 30 seconds or so to get it properly. But Simon Edwards, he did a power move on the outside. Here we are on board number 52 machine then as they enter Tower corner right now. You can see the two drivers battling ahead of him, the number 11 car of Edwin Valerino and the number 25 car of Anthony Catt. And look there, they make almost four wheels on the grass for Simon Edwards.
And Edwards definitely just pushing the issue well, not exactly multiple times, but definitely saying, well, you know what? I lost all positions on pit road, so you know what? I'll just make this move and see what happens. And somehow, some way, that just barely managed to stick, and somehow just barely. I think there was even a foot that was separating them. That was they definitely may have made a little bit of contact, but
yeah,
that is impressive by Simon Edwards.
Yeah, and let's go back then to show you what happened a little bit further ahead. This is the battle going on. Andrew Corey, Sasha Goyle in the last couple of moments of this race, and you can see Sasha actually, you see he takes the ultra defensive line heading in towards the final corner, but we are under the impression that he ran out of fuel at the end there. And you can see, first of all, you have the number 53 car going around the outside of him. That normally is a telltale sign of you not got enough fuel, because the reason why, just see how quickly they all go past him when he exits the final corner.
I'm listening to his on board. Yeah, he was out of fuel. Yeah, he was sputtering just at the exit of the corner. So I was watching the speed. I was thinking, well, he's either slowing down or something's wrong. But it was definitely the fact that he was out of fuel. It almost paid off for that lack of fuel. But unfortunately, that lack of fuel also paid into a very massive disadvantage.
And there is a look at Steven Stoyles then turning around Tran at the final corner of the final lap of this race. We'll get one more look, shall we, on board with Steven Stoyles in at the number 215 car in towards Sunset Bend. You can see he took the line pushing wide early and then just rolling on the throttle, and he just runs into the rear of Tran.
There's so many things in this final battle. Taking a look at that as well. Very good placement, though. I will say that for Steven Stoyles. Great placement to move right down to the inside, but it's just unfortunate that that number 21 was just directly there right at that moment. But either way, it was great placement, but hopefully it was this more than definitely unintentional. But I don't believe that Tran was still either happy about that either way.
Let's get a look, though, at your final race results here from the 2K World Cup at Sebring. Dominant drive there by Johnny Gindi. 10.8 seconds ahead of Greg Seats. Fast lap of the day, a 2:23.603. The only driver to get consistently into the 2:23s. About the only driver to get into the 2:23s in this race at all. And let's not forget, for the majority of that race, who's doing it running on his lonesome. Second place, Greg Zeitz in the number 74 car. Third place, Will Fisher. And we saw a close battle going on between Justin Tipton, Andrew Vicorio, and Sasha Goyle. Goyle losing out from P number 4. And a shot at the top 5 by running out of fuel. Final corner, final lap. Brian Duell, Steven Stoyles in P7, P8. Stoyles having that incident with Tran on the final corner of the final lap. Iron Freighter, P number 9, and Anthony Catt rounds out your top 10. Simon Edwards able to recover to P number 11 after he had himself a speeding penalty on pit road a little bit earlier on. And of course, that's helped by the fact Tran, who finishes 13th, had that spin. Edwin Valerino in 12th, Tran in 13th, Carl Dronke 14th, Enzo Cantor in 15th. Then you got the drivers who are over a minute back from your race leader. They start off with Sebastian Schultz in P number 16, Mike McCormick in 17th, Rob Adams in 18th, Hans Hoyer 19th, and John Morgan running out your top 20. There are the remainder of the results up on your screen. 22 drivers on the 24 here, Gary, finished on the lead lap. Only one driver, one lap down, and only one retiree.
Yeah, very, very amazing, especially compared to, I believe it was last week, but amazing job for all these drivers to take their time and definitely survive it to the end. And it was absolutely wonderful to see this finish.
Yeah, we have got your race winner, Johnny Gindi here. Johnny, I want to start off with qualifying. You seem to be having a bit of a laugh there, coming up on your warm-up lap, trying to heat the tyres up or do something. How important was it to get heat in those tyres as you came onto your flyer? Because you were by far the quickest driver in qualifying.
Yeah, unfortunately, with this current build of the car, you have to do silly things to get good qualifying laps. So you have to weave around a lot. You have to almost slide the car every chance you get on that out lap, and it really does help you on your first quali lap. But yeah, and I think I could have gone maybe 3 or 4 tenths quicker. I really messed up the lap. But yeah, a lot of it is getting a lot of heat into the tires and just being really silly, as you put it, on the out lap.
Well, the race itself, you were absolutely flying here today. You're the only driver to get yourself into the 2-minute 23s, and you're able to do that on a pretty consistent basis. By far the quickest driver, but at the start, you had a pack of 4 or 5 drivers behind you. Was it a deliberate effort there to take less fuel in that first run to give yourself the clean air?
Yeah, I was debating it. Like, before every single race, I'll just write down, most of the time it's just 2 strategies. I'll either pit heavily on the pit for a lot of fuel on the first stop and then less fuel on the other one, or vice versa. And I'll always write down the 2, have them next to me as I'm driving along, and then decide on the go. And this race I really didn't know what to do, because I figured a lot of people, everyone's going to think I'm going to go for the short stop first, and they're going to do the short stop as well. Then they'll still be in my draft. But fortunately, I don't think anyone took the really short stop at first. So I went for it, and I got a really good lead, and I was just able to push without anyone in my draft after that.
Absolutely dominant performance here today. Of course, next time out, it is Loudon, New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Very different track, of course, to what we've got here today. Are you looking to carry on some momentum into the next race?
Yeah, I'll definitely try to drive that race. Track's a little bit different. It is a roval, but it's still not a draft track, even though it is a roval. So you can, if you're quick enough, you can get away from the pack. Whereas here, you gotta be lucky, or just have over a 1 second advantage over other people. But New Hampshire, it should be a little bit more fun. Also, passing there is gonna be a little bit harder, and it actually, takes skill, so it's a lot funner to race that sort of track, in my opinion.
Well, before we let you go, Johnny, shout out sponsors, who gets it done.
I obviously want to thank my team, Trivix Esports, our sponsors, Scalpers, 3M, Burner. I know I'm missing one, Huckster and Hux. I'd like to thank everyone in the team. They're great.
Well, thank you very much there. Johnny Gindy coming home with the race victory here today. Second place is Greg Zietz, and finishing 10.8 seconds behind your race winner, but still a sterling effort. Stood by with Gary.
And here with Greg Zietz after he started off in the sixth place position. Actually, fifth place position, rather. Greg Zietz in the 74 rounds out not too far behind. Well, pretty far behind, actually, with 11 seconds back, but still home with a second place finish. Absolutely amazing job either way to pretty much battle out and survive to the end. So walk us through your race, Mr. Zietz.
Yeah, I'm super happy with the result. Johnny was just amazingly fast, and I knew there was no chance I was going to catch him once he short fueled and took off. I actually kind of expected him to do that, but I just didn't know how much he was going to short fuel, and I was a little bit too far behind, I think, to catch him. So I just decided to max out my fuel and go from there. But yeah, I just wanted to hang with that front pack because again, Johnny is like just amazingly fast here, and so I knew we would be able to pull some gap on the guys behind us, and then it was just kind of a waiting game and working my way through the field as kind of opportunities existed, and I wanted to get ahead of Simon on that at the pit stop lap because I worried about just losing some time there. I don't know. It's basically easier to control things when you're in front, and so I kind of pushed hard to get past Simon there, which I'm happy that I did because I think that might have made a difference in getting out a little earlier.
Especially with this track, as well as the near 4 mile track, as well as the multiple corners, some being tight, some being long and winding. What were your tires? Were there any different conditions for your tires by the end of this race? How's the handling? Did that improve or did that drop off at the near the end of the race?
I think with the new tire model, it tends to improve over time. So you get to a point where, it's pretty easy to control. It's the initial laps that are really scary when you push too hard. But yeah, once you settle in, these tires kind of last forever.
And these tires definitely lasted forever, and they lasted to get you to second place. So before we let you go, anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for your P2 finish?
Yeah, I want to shout out to you guys for broadcasting this, and then my team, TT Racing, of course, and then special shout out to Diogo Francisco, who he's going to start racing again. He's had a leg injury, and so we've missed him for a bunch of months, and super happy to see him coming back.
That's definitely going to be glad to see him back for sure. So as we let you go, we will go ahead and let you go. Congratulations again on your second place.
Yeah, thanks. And again, congrats to Johnny. That was just an amazing run.
Well, thank you very much there to Greg Zietz, also to Johnny Gindy. That is all we got time for here today in the 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulation. Before we go, of course, I want to say thank you, as ever. It's from TrackCams22.com to Andy Warner and One Designs for our graphical overlay, and also to Simon Grossman for all the work over at ATVO. That guy's been Gary Weaver. I've been Will Vincent. Good night from a fantastic weekend worth of racing this weekend. Good night from Sebring, and good night from the 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulation.